yes, I love parkour. And I now know I should have asked, what's parkour? Because if I asked them that question, then they would have told me, it's this game where we do physical stunts until we break our body. And I would have been like, we should never play parkour. That should be illegal. Why is this not banned? But I was trying to sound cool. And the stunt they wanted me to do was to jump from like the stage in my middle school theater onto like a bunch of folding chairs and like run across them to do like a somersault type thing, which sounds crazy. But then they pulled up a YouTube video of parkour and I was like, oh, that's parkour. That's like the whole thing. So I was like, okay, I can do that. And so I get on the stage and I get ready. I'm like, 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. And I jump and I nail it. I fucking like, I land, I do the somersault, I flip. Like it's the best move ever. But when I got up, I realized nobody was watching. And if you do a parkour stunt and no one watches in middle school, did you even do it at all? Like so I had to do it again. So this time I asked everybody, I'm like, guys, you need to watch. I'm the best. I got my friends involved. I'm getting the teachers, the girls, like there's people hanging from the rafters, everybody, a bigger audience than tonight probably. That's how many people were watching me do this. And I get on, I'm like, 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. And this time I don't do it successfully. This time I land in a split position on this part of the chair. And because it's a folding chair, it folds back and I land hardly on my butt. And there I was in front of my whole entire middle school at 14 years old, just peeing blood in front of everybody. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, why were you in middle school if you were 14? I'm not a smart person. I get held back a lot. Like I was really dumb. Like whenever like they were teaching us lessons in school, they would hand me a ball and would say, Joey, you need to go outside for this one and play catch with yourself. I was slow. And it wasn't because I was a good athlete. They weren't training me to get like a college scholarship for sports. That's not what it was. I was just dumb. So I got held back a lot, but that's a different story. So I started peeing blood from my middle school. The school calls the ambulance to pick me up, but I call my mom, and my mom beats the ambulance. She's already there. She picks me up, puts me in the car, starts driving to the hospital. And on the way there, she calls up my urologist's office, which is a penis doctor. And normally it's for men who are like 50 or 60 years old. I already had one at 14. I can explain why. It's because when I was 11, I had this weird thing where I went to the doctor and they found like a knot in my you-know-where that was like tied together like iPhone headphones when they're stuck in your pocket for too long. And so my doctor was like, we need to get you a urologist. So I had a urologist at 14. And my mom calls up the urologist's office and the nurse picks up the phone and tells my mom that my urologist just died last week. My mom is not a calm person right now, but to find out the guy that's gonna save my life is now dead makes her freak out. She starts driving faster. She's cutting people off. She yells out in the backseat, why didn't you do this 2 weeks ago? So we get to the hospital, and it must have been like Friday the 13th or something, because it was the busiest day in ER history. There was a line literally out the door, and my mom in that moment showed me that she's a badass. Because she looked at this line and was like, Joey, we're cutting this shit. And we just cut the whole line. And as we're doing it, I feel bad because we're like passing like a pregnant lady, a guy having a heart attack, another guy peeing blood. And we cut the whole line. And when we get to like the ER room, the surgeon looks at me for like 2 seconds and goes, I don't know what's wrong with you, but we're going to have to cut you open. And he immediately puts a gas mask of drugs on me. And I fall asleep, and they start doing surgery on me. And in that moment, in that course of me sleeping, they conduct the surgery on me, then stop, transfer me to a more intense hospital, like 2 towns over, and then do more surgery on me. So by the time I woke up, it was like 8 p.m. And that was the time I was supposed to go on the date with Gabby. And I wake up from this surgery, and all I can think about was like, it's 8 o'clock. If I leave now, I can still see Gabby. And my mom's like, you can't see Gabby. I'm like, give me my phone. I got to talk to her. And I call up Gabby, and I tell her, I can't see you tonight. I'm in the hospital. Is what I thought I said, but I was so high on morphine, what I actually said was, I'm peeing blood on my dick. Lots and lots of blood. So I never had that date with Gabby. And right now that I was trying to process that phone call, My surgeon enters the room and explains to me what happened. He said, "You landed on the chair hitting your perineum, which is your gooch, your taint, your grundle. It's like that piece of skin in between your frontal private part and your backwards private part. You know what I'm saying? That piece of skin." He said I hit it so hard that it made my bladder stop working temporarily. And he said if I hit it harder, I would have died. And all I could think about was, it'd be funny if I died, because if I died, I would have been the first person in history to die from hitting that taint. They probably would change the name to the Rinaldi strip, because I'm like the first person in history to die. I'd be like Lou Gehrig. I have my own medical term named after me. But while I was thinking about this, I saw that my mom was crying because this was a very traumatic thing to tell a mother. But I'm still high on morphine. You're high on morphine. You don't want to look at your crying mom. So I stopped looking at her. I began watching the TV playing The Big Bang Theory. And guys, I learned a lesson that night that I want to pass on to all of you. That when you're on enough drugs, The Big Bang Theory actually is funny. And that's my story. Thank you so much.
Yay!
Yay!
Very nice.
Wow, Joey, way to kick us off.
Thanks.
Go. How are you feeling nowadays?
The fact that I can pee without a urine bag makes me the happiest kid alive. I'm happy.
I'd say that's an understatement. Good. Really good. Way to go, man. So, you got anything you want to plug? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Joey Rinaldi. I'm posting a lot of stupid videos about me and my little sister handling quarantine. We do a lot of stupid stuff. And I also have a podcast that he said coming out next week. So yeah, Instagram, or check out Trailer Trashing.
Nice. All right. Way to go. Thanks. One more round for Joey. All right. So for our next storyteller, let's bring him on up. He's my buddy. He's a filmmaker and storyteller who lives not far from me in Jersey City. He has been seen at The Moth, the Magnet Theater, and in fact, several other virtual storytelling shows like the one we're doing right now. And he's one of the creators of this very show, Awkward Teenage Years. In fact, I will go so far as to say that he's the daddy of this here brainchild. Give it up for my friend, Will Clegg.
Hey, everybody. Grant, it's pronounced Zaddy, by the way, I think is what you were trying to say. It's August of 1995, and I'm in North Carolina. It's a sweltering day, very hot, very humid, and I'm on my 10th soccer practice of the week. We're doing 2-a-day soccer practices as tryouts for the varsity soccer team, and I'm in 10th grade, and I've just come to this school, having gone to a different school for middle school. And so I don't know the coach. I don't know a lot of the players. And even though I've been playing soccer my whole life, I've always been one of the best players on my teams. This is a new challenge. This is a very, very good soccer program at this school. And for the first time, I'm a little worried that I might not make the team. Even though all week I've been playing my heart out, I'm physically prepared, I've got the skills. And then the next day, the whole team who actually makes the team is going to go up to Asheville, North Carolina to train where it's a little bit cooler for the following week, right? So the cuts are happening this Friday, and I've packed my bags. I'm pretty sure I'm making the team, and I'm feeling good when Coach Horton calls me over to have a little chat. And the first thing he says is, "Will, I'm really impressed with the work that you've done this week." And I'm like, "All right, I made it." And he's like, I want you to know that we're going to have to put you on the junior varsity team for this fall. We want you to be a leader on the JV team. And I just don't think you're quite ready for varsity this year. But and then he keeps talking and talking, but like his voice turns into that teacher in Charlie Brown, where it's just like wah 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 wah, and I can't hear it because I'm so devastated by this news. I mean, there's all these kids who are younger than me or slower than me. They're not as skilled, who have made the team, and it's mostly because, in my mind at least, they have a legacy with this coach. Their brother or their sister has played before them. The coach has known them for a few years. And I just don't have that advantage. And so I'm not making the team. And it breaks my heart a little bit. And so I do play for the JV team. And I get to be the captain as elected by my teammates. And I have a pretty good season. We kind of stink, but I play okay at least. And throughout the season, the coach will often call up one of the players from the JV team to be on the varsity team for like one game. If somebody gets hurt or injured, and I just keep waiting for my chance for that to happen. And it happens for a bunch of my friends, but it never happens for me. At the end of the season, I'm feeling pretty disheartened about my soccer playing, and like maybe just kind of who I thought I was out on the soccer field. And one thing that really brings me down about this whole experience is that I wanted to be friends with all those kids who were on the varsity team. You know, they were like a really tight group of popular kids, and I just couldn't really get in with them because I was on the outside looking in. And I took it all very hard, and I started to kind of withdraw within myself a little bit that year. And so I wasn't really making a lot of new friends, wasn't really talking a lot in classes. And one of my teachers, Mrs. Harris, she, I guess, intuited what was going on with me, and she started calling on me more and more in our English class, trying to get me to join discussions. And even though I kind of resisted that, I did appreciate that she took an interest in me, that she wanted to hear what I had to say. And I became like fond of her class, at least. And then one day after class in the winter, she asked me if I could stay and talk to her for a minute. You know, first instinct is like, if you have to stay after class, like you're in trouble, right? Like I forgot to do an assignment, or like I got caught, you know, talking to somebody during class, whatever, I don't know. But after everybody leaves and she sits down, she's like, I wanted to talk to you for a minute. I'm directing the school musical, Oklahoma, and I thought maybe you'd like to audition. And I'm like, me? No, I mean, you definitely, you know, confused me for somebody else. Like I don't do musicals, so I'm not interested in that at all. And she's like, no, I know you don't usually do it, but you know, we have all these girls who want to be in the show, but we don't have any guys, and there are a bunch of male parts we have to cast. So I thought maybe I'd just start asking students who might be interested. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's not me, I'm sorry. And then I stand up, you know, gather my things to leave, and she's like, you know, it is a really good way to meet girls, because there's so many girls in the show and not many guys. And so I stop, and I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I could consider it. And then I you know, think about it for the week, and she keeps kind of pushing me, and I'm pushing back. But then by the end of the week, I agree. All right, you know, I'll audition. I don't sing, I don't dance, but you know, I could do like one of the acting parts, I guess. So I go and I do the audition, and I read for the part of Judd, which is the villain in the play. And when I'm reading it, like it just seems easy. Like Judd is this very angry character, and I was a very angry teenager, so I didn't really have to do much acting, and it just kind of flowed right out of me, and it seemed to work. And they agreed because they cast me in the role. And you know, there wasn't really any competition, but it didn't matter. I got the part, right? And so at the first rehearsal, I find out that Judd actually has 2 songs and a dance number. And I'm like, you know, we negotiated this, and I did not agree to do these things. And they say, it's okay, we're going to cut one of the songs completely. You don't have to do the dance. And the other song, you can just kind of speak the lyrics. Like the song is with the lead of the play, Curly, like he's going to do all the heavy lifting. You can just speak the lyrics, it'll be fine. And so I'm like, okay, great. And as we get through this rehearsal process, I do meet a lot of girls, which is fantastic. And not just girls, though. There's this whole community of people that I didn't really know about, because they're all very tight-knit, of theater kids. And they all were very warm and welcoming and accepting of me. And I found this neat little group of people that I didn't even know really existed. And as we rehearsed my song, you know, I could just speak the lyrics, and it was always fine, because the kid playing Curly was a very talented singer. I kind of like let him show off a little more anyway. And it all felt like pretty good. And then we get to the dress rehearsal. So we're all in costumes for the first time. And instead of just the piano accompanying us, now there's an orchestra playing the music. And it's just like kind of amazing, like a magical sort of night. And as they start to play our song, I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna sing a little bit. I don't know, see how it goes, right? And so when my part comes up, instead of speaking, I sing. And I'm no like Lin-Manuel Miranda or anything, but like, you know, I don't sound bad. And everybody kind of like responds nice, like you know, Miss Harris is smiling out in the audience, musical directors like, you know, thumbs up. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this tomorrow night. I don't know, I haven't done it the whole rehearsal period, but I'm just gonna try it for the show. And so the first show, it's a sold out house. There's 500 people in the auditorium. And when my song comes up, even though I'm nervous as hell, I sing a little bit, and it goes great. Like everybody has that same surprised reaction. And at the end of the song, everybody's applauding and standing up, and it just feels amazing. And the show goes perfectly without a hitch, 3 nights in a row. And the whole experience is absolutely wonderful. I didn't know that I had this in me. And I was so excited to learn about this new thing that I could do, acting, right? And so a couple months later in the spring, Coach Horton calls me down to his office, wants to have a talk with me about soccer. And I go and I sit down, and he's like, Will, really happy with the way that you played for the JV team. You became a leader, and we're really excited to have you come out in August and be on the varsity team. You're going to be a very important player for us, and maybe even a captain of the team by the time you're a senior. And I'm like, thanks, Coach, but I was thinking about being in the fall play, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to do the play and soccer. And Coach Horton just kind of sits back and sighs, and he's like, okay, when I was in high school, I was in a production of Bye Bye Birdie. It was a great experience. I played Conrad. We had so much fun. It looked great on my college applications. But what we really need to focus on right now is what's important for you, and that's soccer. And he keeps talking, but it turns into that Charlie Brown voice again. Like, I can't hear any of the words that he's saying. And when he's done, I just stand up and say, you know what, thanks, Coach, but I've already made my decision. That's it. I got a couple pictures to show you. Let me cue them up here. I've got, this is me as Judd in Oklahoma. And then just so you know, I did stick with it. This is me the following year as Franz, the Nazi butler in The Sound of Music.
So cute.
Fantastic. Look
All
at those
right.
nuns.
Oh. Give it up one more time for Will.
That's my
Or
performer
good
origin
day.
story.
Do you remember any of the songs from the show?
Yeah, I'm not going to sing them now, though.
Oh, well, let's see what
Come on.
I hit. No, I'm doing. I'm not going to do that. Nice. Well, where can people find you? What have you got going on?
Yeah, on Instagram, I'm at the_WZA, little reference to my love for the Wu-Tang Clan. And I'm on Facebook and Twitter and all the other stuff, Will Clegg.
Nice, nice. Good work tonight, man. One more time for Will.
Yay!
All right. Coming to you next. Our next storyteller is coming all the way from Queens. She's been seen at the Moth community events and Moth Story Slams. And she is also one of the co-creators of Awkward Teenage Years, part of the Big Three. So let's give it up for Anastassiya Maximenko.
So I'm graduating high school, and we're all very excited because we're gonna have our prom. But in Kazakhstan, where I'm from, it's actually a little bit different from US. The graduation ceremony and the prom is one thing. And on the actual day, we receive all our diplomas, and afterwards we have a celebration in the restaurant with all the graduating class of 30 students and our parents. And my parents have alternate schedule, work schedule, so I can take only one to the ceremony. And of course, it's gonna be my dad, because I just love my dad unconditionally. And I think he's so interesting, he's so cool. And he's from big city, and he traveled a lot, and he graduated high school and went to music school. And even though music school is not real college, I still thought that he's the most smartest person in the world. And in comparison with my mom, she's from really little village, and she didn't even graduate high school, and definitely she didn't travel. So while I was the biggest fan of my dad, I was very often embarrassed by my mom. So my plan was, I'm gonna bring my dad, and I'm gonna use him to, to just basically to get attention from everyone. Because my dad also has this energy. He comes to room and everyone becomes his friend. and he's just the light of the party. And I am just full, like a real loser, okay? For the 4 years of my high school, I was complete outsider and I didn't even have friends in my class. So I thought, I'm gonna bring my dad, everyone's gonna love him, and then everyone's gonna love me, all right? But my dad has one big flaw, and like he has many, but this is the biggest. He's alcoholic. So we never know that like once he leaves the house, if he's gonna come back the next day. Or like 4 days later, we're just gonna find him laying down drunk somewhere on the outskirts of the town. So I know that very, very well. So I'm like, the month before the ceremony, I sit down with my dad and I'm like, Dad, please just stay sober for at least 4 days before the ceremony, okay? And he's like, oh my God, my little girl is graduating. Of course I'm gonna be there. Let me just take my suit out of the closet. Like I'm gonna be prepared, okay? And I'm like, yes, great, awesome. So it's 4 days before the ceremony. My dad leaves the house and he doesn't come back. And I'm like, shit, like he definitely drinks somewhere. And we can't find him because, you know, he has many friends and he probably drinks, he can drink anywhere. And there's no cell phone. So it's definitely, I cannot find him. And it's actually, now it's the day before the ceremony. And in the morning, my dad comes home and is completely drunk. And, you know, we have this routine in my family where we can bring him to the senses. And with that, we do that and he sleeps a little and he wakes up and he's like, oh, Anastasia, I'm so sorry, but I probably cannot go with you. Like, look at me, I cannot even stand straight and look at my face. And yeah, his face like got swollen so much that I cannot even see his eyes. And I'm like so angry and I was so upset because I'm like, what the hell? I'm gonna go to the ceremony alone? Because my mom also, she just left the house to work for her night shift. And I'm just like sitting at home and I don't know what to do. But in the few hours, my mom comes back and I'm like, Mom, what are you doing home? And she's like, listen, I swapped my shift with someone else because I just cannot let you go to the ceremony by yourself. And I'm thankful, but in the same time, I still so angry, so upset. So it's the day of a ceremony, and obviously, like everything goes to shit. Like my hair looks bad, and my makeup is shit, and I don't like my dress anymore. But we get ready and we go, and we actually late to the party. And this is like small stage outside of the restaurant, and we have our principal like saying some speech, and around it, it's so many people, like students, their families, like a lot. So we get closer, and my mom switched her like village girl, and she's like, "Excuse me, we need to pass, okay? And because we need to stand over there in front." And that cracks me up so much, and I'm laughing for the first time in a long time. And we get to the front, and principal is, you know, like saying his speech and everything, and he throws some names in his speech, and my mom, she's like, excuse me, what about my daughter? She is graduating with honors, okay? And the principal is so, like, he's so embarrassed. He's like, oh, yeah, of course. I'm sorry, Miss Maximenko. Yes, Anastassiya Maximenko. She's such a great student. She did so well, graduating third in our class with honors. Ta, 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 ta. And we get, so it's like his speech over. We get our diplomas. We go to the restaurant. We have food and drinks. And now it's time for the dance. And some of the parents are dancing together, and boys and girls are dancing. And I'm dancing with my mom. And we're dancing, and she strikes my hair and she goes, Anastasia, I just want you to remember this moment because it's just huge milestone for you. And you graduating, you did so well as a student, and I'm just extremely proud of you. And that moment, like, again, I'm thinking about my dad, and I'm thinking like, actually, I didn't want him to be there for like other people attention. I wanted the person that I love so much to be there at the moment, at this huge moment for me. But he's not there, and probably he doesn't even remember that I'm graduating with honors. But then I just bringing back myself to actual moment, because for once my mom doesn't embarrass me, and I just appreciate that she's there for me and with me, because in the end of the day, she's just incredibly amazing person. Thank you.
Oh.
And I also have some pictures. So first one, this is my mom, and we are singing some stuff probably. And the next picture is, this is my dad. He is sober here, looks good. We see his eyes. The face is not swollen. And the next picture, and this is
wow.
prom. And basically, this is like me, and I don't know if you can recognize me. But it happened that so many girls were in red dresses, and I was in a red dress. Here we go. Thank you.
Wow.
Nice. Give it up one more time for Anastasia.
Thanks.
Wow, wow. It's it's great that your mom is able to just take charge like that. It's like, excuse me, my child should be in the front
Love it.
right now.
Yeah, thanks to her.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's such a sweet story.
Thank
Really,
you.
really good work.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
So Anastasia, since you have the floor, why don't you help our audience learn how they can find out a little more about us?
So definitely, guys, follow our Instagram at Awkward Teenage Years, and also we are on the Facebook. And what I want to mention, we had our original show in the Frigid Theater as their Frigid Festival 2020. And now we actually put that video of our original show online, and you can check it as a part of festival social distant scene. And you can also find it on www.awkwardteenageyears.com. And it's just $5, so please go ahead and check. And also, if you want to be a part of our show, please email your pitches, because we all know all our teenage years are actually awkward, and you also definitely have a story. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right. Coming to the stage next, our next storyteller. He is also a writer and a public speaker out in Brooklyn. He has been featured, he's been published in the Washington Post first of all, but he's also been featured on The Moth, Speak Up Storytelling, and Love Hurts podcasts. And he is the founder of Unreeling Storytelling, which provides a platform for hidden perspectives. So please welcome to your screens, Devan Sandiford.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you so much, man. So it's 2001. I'm 15 years old, and I'm opening up this cooler on a beach camping trip. And I open this cooler and I look inside and I see a ton of beer. And this is a big problem, actually, because I'm 15 years old. But the real reason it's a big problem is because I go to a Seventh-day Adventist Christian school. And at my school, it's just not a regular Christian school. At my school, we have chapels every Friday. We pray in all of our classes. And there's even this really awkward guy named Jammin who goes up on the stage and he does this terrible Christian rap, which includes the acronym JAM, J-A-M, for Jesus and me. So we're not joking around. It's a very serious Christian situation, And when I open this thing and I look and I see this beer, and I'm like, why is there beer in here? And I'm there with my 3 best friends, and we're trying to figure out, we're supposed to be at our friend's campsite. He had told us, yeah, go ahead and grab some stuff. And we're like, why does he have beer here? And all of a sudden we hear, you kids, get out of my shit. I can see you guys. And we're like, whoa, that's not our friend's voice at all. And we look around and we're like, this is not actually his cooler. This is not even our friend's campsite. We had gone to the complete wrong campsite. And so we're like frozen, and we're like, should we stop and should we like explain this to the guy that we mixed this up? But I'm 15, I'm black, and I have an afro. My 2 other friends, they're black, they're twins. One of them has cornrows and he's always wearing red. And the least suspicious person out of us, our last friend, a guy named Nazareth, he's a genius and he skipped 2 grades. So he's like 13, maybe 14, but he looks like he could be 40. So we're like, I don't think we can explain this. And he's like, I'm calling the cops. And that was our cue. And we're like, we take off running. We're not staying around here. And at this particular beach campsite, it's one of those ones where this top row is all campsites and it overlooks the water. And if you go in either direction, if you go for like 100 meters, you'll hit a staircase that leads down to the beach. So we're like, let's just book it and go down to the beach. We'll run for a bit and then we'll try and like regroup and figure out how we're gonna do this. We don't want like to get caught by the cops. Like, and we go to this really this private school which has mostly, I'd say like 95% white people. And being that there's a group of 3 black people, we're like, we can't really hide. So as 14 and 15-year-olds, we think, the best thing to do would be let's switch shirts, because that way they won't be able to distinguish us. And we're like, yeah. And we're like starting to take our shirts off, and we're like, wait a minute, like it's still gonna be the same 4 combination of shirts, regardless of how we switch them. Like they're gonna know it's us. Like we gotta come up with a better plan. So we're like, you forget that plan. Like, let's just walk down the beach for like as long as possible. We'll just walk and walk, and then like, we'll just wait it out. Like, he's not going to be that upset. We'll just keep walking, and hopefully he'll just forget it, and like, they'll stop looking for us. So that's what we do. We walk along the beach for a really long time. It was probably like 45 minutes. And the sun is starting to go down at this point, and the tide is starting to come in. And I'm like, you know what, guys? We should probably head back. Like, our group is going to be looking for us. The rest of our classmates are going to be like, where's Devin, Mark, Michael, and Nas? Like, where are they? And so the rest of the guys are like, yeah, that's true. We should head back. So we head up one of these other staircases on the far side of the campground. And we're now back up on the top level, and we're walking along, and we're like, our plan, it's all right, but the guy's campsite is actually near our campsite. Like, all of our classmates have campsites that are right next to his. And our group campsite is very near the guy's one. So we're like, we got to come up with something better than what we've come up with so far. So we're like, you know what we'll do? We will stop at campsites along the way and help them with things. So that way we have alibis. So we stop at a random campsite, and we're looking, and it's like this family, and they look like they could use some help, like moving a picnic table. So we're like, oh, we'll get that for you. And we like pick up the picnic table, and we move it from one side to the other side. And they're like, oh, thank you guys so much. You guys are some great kids. And we're like, yeah, we're just here with our rest of our school, like trying to give them some indicators just in case that they need to recognize us. And then we stop at another campsite, and like we see trash. We're like, you know what, let's just help pick up this trash. And like, we're waving at random people, telling them hi. And we're like, this plan is going perfect. Like, all these people are going to know us, and we're going to have all these alibis. There's no way the guy's going to be able to say like, no, like 3 people are wrong and you're right. Like, no, we're not the people. It's just, you don't know who you're talking about. And we're loving this plan. We're walking along until we bump into these 2 older teenagers, and they stop us. They're like, hey guys, hey, what's up? Like, if you're going to keep walking this way, you got to make sure that you got to watch out, because there's some guys over here and they're going crazy and they're trying to blame us for something that we haven't even done. And we're like, what? Like, it's been like at least an hour. This guy is still going crazy about this. Like, we picked up the beer bottles. That was it. Like, we can't believe it. So we like try and get some details out of them without giving them any details about us. And we're like, so like, what were the guys telling you? And they're like, yeah, the guys were telling us that we were like trying to talk to these girls, but these girls were too young for us, and that we need to like leave. Like, we shouldn't be in their area. And we're like, what are they talking about? Like, girls, that wasn't part of. And we're like, wait a minute, what do the guys look like? And they're like, it's one of the guys, like this big white guy with this huge beer belly, and he's got a trucker hat, and he's with this older black guy who's really stern. Like, just make sure you watch out for them. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. But as soon as they walk away, we like, oh, we know these guys. The big white guy is our history teacher. And the black guy, he is our English teacher, but he's also the head elder of my church. And he's also my father. So now we're like, oh my goodness, like the cops would have been one thing, like the cops probably wouldn't care. We didn't steal anything, but like now we're like completely worried that like my dad is gonna be the one that's on high alert. We've been gone for like an hour and a half, and we don't know anything about what happened in the last hour. So we're freaking out on another level. Like, we're all really close friends. Mark and Michael, I've been friends with the two twins since 2nd grade. So like my dad is like a basically extension of their dad, and their dad's a pastor. So it's like, if my dad finds out, it's like gonna be toast for them. So we're like, we gotta come up with an even better plan now. Like, my dad's on high alert. So we're like, as we're going back and walking to the campsite, we're like, well, at least we have this information about these guys. Like, let's see if we can just like blend in and like pretend like we were here the whole time. So we get back to the campsite, and sure enough, everyone's like talking about these guys that were like trying to talk to the girls. Like, they're so old. Like, why are they trying to talk to these young girls? Like, that was weird. So like we blend in, and we're like, oh yeah, I don't know what. Well, yeah, those guys, like, we didn't know really what happened. So we're like, we're just trying to like go along with the conversations. And then we try and like throw in that, like, I think also those guys were like digging through people's stuff. And so like, we're trying to blame them for things that we did just in case, because we're not trying to get caught by my dad. No, that's like the last thing that we want. And, we have our meal as a big group, and we sing all of our songs to Jesus, and we have a great time there. And we get back to our tent finally at the end of the night, not having gotten caught for anything. And me, Mark, Michael, Nas, we're so excited that like this day has gone through masterfully. Our plans worked out. Nobody caught us for anything. And it just really worked out. And that moment, that night for me was kind of big, because I realized that these 3 guys would go with me anywhere, and they would pretend to do anything, and they would have my back wherever. So 3 years later, when me and Nas became roommates in college at another Seventh-day Adventist Christian college, Nas had my back when people were breaking into our dorm room and they wanted to fight us. And then 4 years after that, all of these guys were groomsmen in my wedding. And, the night before my wedding, they said, what are we doing? Are we staying in and talking? Are we going out for one last night of freedom? And so when it came to 4 years after that, and I knew that I had to tell someone, anyone, that I stopped believing in Jesus, I didn't call my dad, I didn't call my siblings. I called these 3 same guys, because I knew that no matter what, they wouldn't be judging me for not believing in Jesus. And even though Mark was a pastor, I knew that he would still treat me exactly the same way, because these are guys that I knew had my back from when I was really young. Thank you.
Nice.
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Give it up for Devin. That was amazing.
Thank
Great
you.
job, man.
Thank you.
Oh, I am so glad storytelling has worked out, because if we learned anything, a criminal mastermind, you are not.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what we were thinking about those shirts, trying to switch them out. That was ridiculous.
The panic of a teenager.
Let's help people so we'll have an alibi.
That too. Pretty ridiculous.
Oh, that was so good. Devin, where can we find you? Have you got anything coming up that people can go check out?
Yeah, I think I'm most active on Instagram. It's just my name, at Devan Sandiford. I am in the middle of working on my first book project, so keep an eye out for that. If you see a place where you can get on the mailing list for that, please jump on it, because this is my first book and nobody knows me.
Yes.
Everyone knows you.
There you go. All right, give it up one more time for Devin.
Thank you.
Woo!
Oh man, I'm gonna be thinking about that one all night. That's all right. Before we get to our last storyteller, we now get to the part of the show that we like to refer to as the PSA. Because as you know, tonight's show, if you're watching it right now, it was totally free to watch. But we do want to take the time to direct you to maybe encourage you to donate some money to a couple of organizations that really, really mean a lot to us. The first of these organizations is Frigid New York. They are a theater company in downtown Manhattan. They run the Frigid Fest. That is where we first produced this show back in February and March of this year. And like all live theater in New York, their doors are closed at the moment, and they're really going to need your help. You can go check out what they do at frigid.nyc. You can also find them at Frigid New York on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all their social media platforms. There's a couple of different ways you can donate to them. You could go to venmo.com/Frigid New York, or you can go to Patreon/Frigid New York, give to their Patreon campaign where you can give like a monthly donation for various different rewards levels. I'm a patron on there. This is a company that I really, really believe in, and they're going to need all our help to pull through this. So go check out Frigid New York. The next organization is the Magnet Theater. And I can honestly say that for most of us here tonight, we wouldn't even be storytellers if it weren't for the Magnet Theater. This is where they teach all these great classes, not just in storytelling, but in improv and sketch, and so many great, wonderful instructors there and performers. You can check out their Twitch channel. Go to twitch.tv/The Magnet Theater, where they're producing great shows every night. You can find them at Magnet Theater on social media. Their shows are also free, but if you go to their website, you can go to magnettheater.com. You can buy the price of admission for a ticket to one of the shows. Just go to the virtual shows banner, and it'll show you everything on how to do that. We really hope that you guys can step up and help these organizations out during this crazy time that we're all in. Thank you so much. And now we are ready to get to our final storyteller of the night. She is a stand-up. You may know her from her performances at the Moth, or you may recognize her as the host of NPR's Ask Me Another. Give a warm round of applause to the one and only Ophira Eisenberg.
Yay! I am the one and only Ophira Eisenberg. Many other people with not that name. So, okay. So I was in grade 10. It was the winter of grade 10, and I was at a house party. It wasn't just any high school house party. It had a live band, but it was a high school live band. It was a high school cover band. They were a U2 cover band, actually, called B4. And I was totally in love, had a huge crush on the lead singer, Danny. Danny actually did not like me. He liked my best friend, Cheryl, and Cheryl actually didn't like him because high school is equally cruel to everybody. But the bass player, Graham, kind of always thought when I was watching their band, I was looking at him and not Danny. And so he thought I liked him, and therefore he kind of liked me. And you know what? I employed what I called the Ringo Starr rule. Anyone in the band is good enough. So Graham and I had like a little bit of a thing going. I mean, it was high school, and I gotta say, everyone was pretty mild. No one had done much. I was someone who wanted to do things. I was really into boys. I'm the youngest of 6. My older 2 sisters were like evil fortune tellers my entire growing up. You know, they would be like, they would say things to me like, wear mini skirts now because when you're 20, your thighs are going to balloon. You know, they were just always telling these terrible tales of my impending future. And they also said, you know, when it comes to sex, the beginning is horrible. So just get that virginity thing over with so you can get on to the good stuff. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I didn't even know what that was all about. I had no good training, but I was attracted to the idea of, I don't know, doing things. And Graham and I had made out a bit, but not really much more. So there's the band in Karen McIver's basement, you know, house parties. We always were in the basement. The basement had shag carpet. That gives you the general idea of the time. And they were playing in between the 2 basement poles, which I think are like for the sewer and the electrical stuff that every basement had. And we're swinging back and forth with our kitten heels sinking into the carpet while they're playing With or Without You and The Streets Have No Name. I can see that Graham is just high on being a seductive rock star. at this house party, and they take a set break. And he grabs my hand, and we go to find the makeout room, because that's another part of every house party. There was one room that was designated the makeout room, right? It was like the spare bedroom or the sewing room. But in this case, kind of a small bungalow house, the only other room than the bathroom was the furnace room, like where the boiler was. Just a cement floor with a boiler in the middle, not very romantic, kind of, you know, Freddy Krueger. If you're into Freddy Krueger, very romantic, but it was all we had, and so we didn't care. So we are sitting on the cement floor in almost darkness, and we're making out, but it feels different. It feels like it has some momentum to it, that we like it might go somewhere, and I want it to go somewhere. And, you know, I don't know really what we're doing though. So he takes his first move. He starts pulling up my shirt. Now, I have a huge scar on my stomach. It is from surviving a car accident when I was 8 years old. I almost died. It's a trauma scar. It's very big. It goes all the way up my front and then up one side, kind of like a big Y, like a crooked tree branch. And it was put together with surgical staples when that was a thing. And so it's not particularly surgical. It's kind of bumpy in some places and thin in others. And you can still even see the stitch marks even now. It kind of looks industrial. And I've had it since I was 8 years old. So even in high school, like, I was okay with it. I just didn't know what other people would think about it. I'd never shown it, especially to a guy. And in the moment when my shirt's coming up, I start freaking out that I have not addressed how this will go. Like, is he going to think it's cool? Is he going to think it's gross and like find me completely unattractive? Is it possible that he won't notice? And I'm trying to figure out what to do. And I think maybe I should give a little speech. Maybe I should really just say, like, hey, you're about to see a scar when you lift up my shirt. It's from a car accident when I was 8 years old, but it doesn't hurt or anything, but it doesn't feel good when you touch it. So just forget about it. Let's do this, you know? But instead, my hand just grabs his and I shove the shirt down. And he looks at me quizzical, and I smile, and the momentum of my hands pushing down with this resolute action keeps going, and I keep pushing down, and he looks at me like, oh, I get what you're saying. I don't even know what I'm saying. And he slowly pulls off my Le Chateau crinoline skirt. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I'm saying. Fine, let's go this way. I'm a genius. Then he helps me skimmy out of my jockey fur underwear. He tosses the skirt into the back of the furnace. Then he tosses the underwear into the abyss of the boiler room. And he looks at me square in the face and he says, I'm gonna go down on you. Now, I didn't even picture this. I have no idea what this feels like. I've been told by my older sisters, this feels the best. Like this is the grand prize. So I'm really into it. So I lay back on the cement floor, and Graham dives between my legs. And I'm ready. I don't know what to expect, but here we go. I'm ready. And what I feel is, I feel like a light punching, I would say, a light punching. And then I feel nothing. And then I feel a little bit more light punching. And then I feel something wet. And then I feel nothing. And I continue to feel nothing. And so I lean up to look at what's going on. And there is Graham's face framed perfectly in the V of my thighs. And he has blood all over his face. Okay, just a pause. If you think this is about the story that I got my period, I wish I had that story. That is not the story. If I had that story, I would totally tell it. No, what happened in this case is that Graham didn't know what he was doing. And somewhere between his excitement and the dry furnace air and the fact that he thought going down on a girl was maybe just like shoving his face into her crotch, he got a nosebleed. He got a nosebleed. And a bad nosebleed. Like, it was bleeding everywhere. We don't really know how to deal with it. So we take off his shirt. We've got his shirt. I'm telling him to put his nose up. He's saying, no, you put it down. And I am scrambling around to find my clothes. And he's going, we need to get Danny, his best friend. And I'm like, no, don't get Danny. He's like, yeah, we need to get Danny. And he's calling out Danny from the door. He opens the door here and is calling Danny. I'm like, no. And I just have my hands on my skirt when I feel that the door is open because there is a sliver of light and Danny has stepped in and he is just looking at us. Silent. He looks at Graham with blood on his face. And then he looks at me naked from only the waist down, which, let me tell you something, is like being quadruply naked with a little blood on my thighs. And then he just stares at the ground. And I'm panicking. I'm thinking, no one's saying anything. I got to do something about this. I got to save the situation. I have to save my reputation and my identity. And I don't know what to say. But what bubbles out of me is I just go, what, you've never seen this before? Like, that's the humiliation here, that I am more experienced than everyone. And the fact that Danny has never gone through this before is really very sad statement on his life. And he just stares at me as if he wants direction. So I take it and I command him, go upstairs and get some towels and some ice and help us. And so he nods and runs off like a good submissive. I throw on my black crinoline Le Chateau skirt, the jockey for underwear, gone forever, a gift to the furnace gods. And I run upstairs to join the rest of the party and find Karen McIver and just figure out like what is being talked about, because I am scared. I leave poor bleeding Graham. I know that Danny's going to come back from him. I run up the stairs. I find Karen McIver. I grab her by her bony shoulders and back her into the yellow guest bathroom on that floor, close the door, and I just say, what have you heard? And she goes, oh, I just heard like there was like a bit of an issue, but it's nothing that Danny's never seen before. I gotta say, I fell in love with that guy just a little bit more that day. Nothing ever worked out between Danny and I. And Graham and I, we went out for a little while, but then we broke up. More like it just fizzled out because I don't think we had the maturity to deal with each other or with what happened. But the good news is no one ever saw the scar. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh, thanks.
I truly cannot imagine a more mortifying experience. I love that your defense mechanism was almost like a police interrogation. It's like, what have you heard?
Oh yeah. I've always been known to be a direct speaker.
Although I gotta say, of all the details in that, U2 cover band sounds just about right. It's
You know, I was driving around today and U2 was on whatever radio station I was listening to, and I was like, oh yeah, like that's how I felt.
Destiny.
Oh, that's amazing. Ophira, is there anything you want to plug? Where can people find you?
Sure, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Ophira E like the letter, and Ask Me Another, the show I host. We're doing a lot of new episodes, so we are doing, remote episodes with a lot of cool people coming up, and I think coming up we're gonna have Ben Schwartz and Samantha Bee and all kinds of people playing silly games from their homes. So yeah, just
Fantastic.
yeah, thanks.
All right, give it up one more time for Ophira.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for coming. And that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you all for watching. Next week, we're kind of going to take a week off, but we're hoping we'll be back in May with more new shows, more new storytellers, and more awkward teenage years. Thank you guys so much. Stay safe.
Thank you.